Hello, students. I want to talk about the power of compounding. Students have a hard time, many people actually have a hard time, trying to analyze the concept of compounding. Fortunately, this calculator is going to show you this power and why it is so important for business students, for accounting students, for investment, for retirement to understand the concept of compounding. Let me give you an example. Imagine that, you know, you are investing $10,000 in a bank, for example. I'm just giving you as an example. You can think about $10,000 in a stock. You inherited $10,000 and you were lucky you put it in a stock. These stocks are going to go up at a rate of 20%. The question is there is not periodic deposit. That means you are not going to buy more stocks, more money to it. You just bought it today. And imagine after 40 years, you are going to retire. You put it in your retirement account, and then, imagine you had 40,000 in your, $10,000, your IRA. Let's say Roth IRA is $7,000 a year. This 7,000, you put it in your Roth IRA, and then this Roth IRA, you were smart. You were able to pick a very good stock that appreciates 20% a year, and that's a significant growth. And you want to know how much this, your portfolio will be after 40 years. Let's say you are now 25. After 40 years, you will be 65, and you click calculate. Let's not forget, this is future value calculator. I want you to do a similar thing and do the calculation right. What you are going to do, I am going to talk about three different calculators. You do the calculation in the way that is best for you. I'm giving an example of the Roth IRA, and here you put it in, 20%, and then let's see how much your $7,000 is going to be after 40 years. Your 7,000 after 40 years will be $10 million. The purpose of myself showing this calculator to you is to show you the power of compounding, because this high interest rate is going to give you significant growth. Can you imagine that $7,000 to become almost, to become $10 million 40 years from now? Yes, if you are the person, if you can find a stock that goes up at 20%, of course it's very hard to find those stocks, but some students make a mistake. They say that, they have 401k. Their 401k are with their employer, previous employer. Look at that, student doesn't know, and doesn't know that 401k is sitting there and is not rolling it over to, let's say, IRA, or is not rolling. And one thing about that, Roth IRA, as you saw, which was $10 million, guess what? You are not going to pay any taxes on this $10 million. That's a very smart thing, because you never know. And let's look at it at today's rate. If we have to pay 20% taxes on this $10 million, that will be almost $2 million, just the federal tax. Then take a state tax to it, then that will be another, $500,000. That means that 1/4 of this $7,500,000, you end up getting $7,500,000 instead of $10 million. All happened because you were smart and you opened the Roth IRA. Of course, traditional IRA has its own advantage. The reason is that this 7,000 is, let me put the 20% back in here. If you were going to invest in, traditional IRA, of course, you cannot put more than 7,000. But because it is after tax, before tax, that means you get your taxes back. You can put your taxes right in here. That's another 1,000, becomes $8,000 now. The people who are over 50 can put, $8,000. And now this person with traditional, who has traditional, has to pay taxes also. But instead of 7,000 today, he has or she has 8,000. And then if you calculate, of course, it will be more than 7 million. 10 million. If you look at here, it will be 11.75. Now this person has to pay 20% of it. Therefore, these are the things that you have to look at this chart, that how the compounding is going to, increase your wealth. Now, a student, we go back, imagine one student said he or she has $7,000 sitting in 401k. And when they are sitting in 401k, many times these employers are worried that you lose your money. They put it in a very safe account. Because there is a very safe account, it only earns 2% instead of 10%, 20%. Therefore, when you click calculate, of course, this 2% is very safe. When you click calculate, let's see if it comes to 10 million or how much, to see the difference. It comes that 2%, it becomes only 15,000. I want you to compare this 15,000 with $10 million and understand the power of compounding and the power that you can benefit by understanding that why interest rates are so important, and understanding them can make you a multimillionaire if suddenly you know the impact of it. I had a question for one of my students. A student came to me and I asked him, and I asked many other students, to buy stocks of SoundHound when they opened an account with this student bought it for $10, and a month after I asked him, okay, it has become $11. I said, oh, that was a great, increase. And I asked him, okay, tell me, you had 10% increase in 1 month. I asked him, okay, if you have 10% increase in every month, how much money are you going to have if it goes at this rate? How much do you think you are going to have after, if I ask you the same question, think about that, you bought a stock for $10, next month it became $11, and imagine that it goes at this rate, means a month after it becomes $12. My question would be, how much would you have after 30 years? That student, mentioned maybe $3,000. But in fact, the amount of money that the student will have is equivalent to trillions of dollars if that goes with that. Let's see if this calculation is happening. It is what happens. Means that every month it goes up. After 30 years, if you multiply 30 years, means 360 months. And in 1 month, it goes up by what percentage? 10%. That means that the annual increase is 120%, because if you multiply 10 by 12 is 120. That means we have the stocks are going to every year, it's going to go up by 120%. And we have 360 months that is going to go. And the stocks that he bought is how much? Only $10. And I click calculate. I want you to, use this example, use your own example, and I show you how you can use your own example. And when I click calculate, let's see if this $10 converts to how much. When I click calculate, it will be this much. Look at that. That is the power of compounding. Therefore, I want you to understand that, how it is going to happen, the power, therefore, it is impossible to have someone, to accumulate this much money. But I want you to see the results of compounding, because it is impossible. Every stock for 360 months, 360 months goes up. Of course, 360, it is supposed to be 10%, because if we converted this to month, this is supposed to be monthly as well. I had, put 120 a month, but it is 10 a month. I do calculation and it will be converted. Let's see how much. Most likely it is $7 trillion. Let's see how much. This is 1,000. million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, or whatever it is. That is how much money this student is going to get if it is going to go up at this rate. Or let me tell you another example. Imagine you have a mean friend. Your mean friend comes and says you, okay, I am going to give you $10 today, and I am going to charge you 10% annually and monthly. After 360, when you are, retired, you have to return my money back. You sign a contract with him or her, and you don't know how much it will be. When you sign that contract, this is what you owe that person. This is what you owe that person. And after 36 years, of course, I want you, the reason I say this again, change it to any number that you want. Use an example that you want. You might say that, I am going to put 360 months from now, I'm going to retire, and I am going to put it in an investment that gives me only 1% a month. It can be annual, doesn't matter. And I have bought a stock that is valued. I just bought the stocks that are $20. Now I want to know if it goes, a 1%, then let's say calculate. Therefore, you do the calculation and you will see that, what the results. Because when we put 360 here, that is the number of 360 years. Therefore, what I had to put here, 36 year, and then the interest, I could put 120 again. This is another way of representing it. 36 years, 120, it should give us the same number that I put, almost the same number. Here you go. It went to 42. This is 1,000. This is million, billion, trillion, and this is 42. That is how much, if for a number of years, 36 years, every year it is going by 120. The present value is $20. Therefore, I want you to see the number of compounding. And I want you to think about this, that hopefully will help you to, figure out that why it is. The same concept is about the credit cards, that we make a lot of mistakes in credit cards because students do not know. They go and, let's say for 20 years, the interest rate, credit card company tells the student, to pay 25% interest, and the student owes the credit card company $20,000, and every month he or she pays $100. I put negative. The reason I put negative here is because this is the money that you owe to the credit card company. But when you pay 100, it goes back from your pocket. That means this 20,000 has come from the credit card company to your pocket, and this $100 that you pay, that's why it has to be negative. And then if I put positive, that means this credit card company is going to give you 100 every month, but now you are paying 100 every month. Let's see what scenario would it be. How much do you owe the credit card company after 20 years? Because these credit card companies do not tell you the impact of high interest rate. And you think, okay, I'm paying, $100 a month. This is $20,000 a year. I borrowed 20, so I owe 20,000. Let's see what happens, to the money. Look at here. The first year, you owe $20,000 and payment. Of course, payment, that is for 1 month. We have to go back because you are paying it every month. Therefore, that will be $1,200 because every month you are paying. Okay, that is in 1 year, you pay $1,200 and you click calculate. You come here, the first year, you owe $20,000. You pay $1,200 of payment, 25% of interest. Therefore, the first year you owe $23,000. That means that you didn't even cover your, interest. If you had covered your interest, you would have paid $5,000. Because you didn't pay that 25%, because $5,000 is 25% of this money, you didn't pay. Now you owe more, $23,000. The second year, the same thing happened. After 20 years, you owe the credit card company 1,320,000. And of course, the credit card companies will do something to recover their interest. Therefore, instead of this, they come and tell you, okay, you have to pay us instead of $1,200. They say you have to pay 5,200 because their interest in 1 year is 5,000. They want you to pay a little bit to trick you, to a little bit more. That way you don't notice it. You say, okay, 5,200 is $400 a month. I am paying $400 a month. I can afford it. Let's have $20,000 in my pocket. Let's see what happens. That they are tricking you. Let me click calculate. This is what will happen. The first year, you will have 19,000. You see, first you had 20,000. A little bit, $200 of it is reduced. Then again, another $200. Let's see what will happen after 14 years. You will be paying off your, almost, do you see here the numbers changing here? Therefore, if you look at here, if you add all the interest together, from here you start and come here and add all of this together, you will see that you have, this is 10,000, 20,000, 30, 40, almost you pay on this $20,000, you are paying $40,000 of interests. Therefore, that's how the credit card companies take advantage of you, because every year they deduct a very little from your money. Therefore, you can think about this calculation just the same way that you are going to use. I can use another example. You can use this example and say, okay, I have a daughter. She just is born and she is going to go to college after 18 years. That's 18 years. I am going to put, $10,000, $5,000 for her in a 5,000. In a fund that pays 15% interest. I want to know by the time she wants to go to the college, or if it's a boy, he wants to go to a college, how much future value, FV here means future value, of my $5,000 is going to be. And then you click calculate. And of course, you can contribute also. Let's say if I contribute $100, $100 periodic. Periodic means that because this is periodic 18 years, this is rather than monthly. If it is $100 a month, that is $1,200 a year. Let's see what calculation, how much do we have for our child when she or he gets to, age 18, we have 152,000. If you look at this negative, is because you gave this one to the bank. It went out of your pocket. It is positive because the bank has to give it back to you. That's why it is negative. Therefore, I want you to use. Another student doesn't know about interest rates, gets the money, and puts it in interest rate that gets 1%. And let's see, thinks that, okay, my bank is giving me 1%. I put my $1,000, and even this student is contributing $1,200. Let's see how much this student, the first student, got $152,000 for his or her child. Now let's see how much this student is going to have. Only $29,000. The concept is the compounding effect of it that you all should know. Therefore, I have put a discussion board, and I want you to write an example about any of these calculators. This one is a finance calculator. This is about, future value calculator. This was another example that I showed you how it can go and become trillions of dollars. If it goes crazy like that, this shows the power of, strongly shows the power of compounding, that the stocks of $20 that, goes here also says interest, but in fact, it is a growth rate that it is going And I used it as a growth rate, but you can look at it as interest or anyway. Therefore, after you do that, on the discussion board, suppose say that, okay, I am going to buy a house, and that house, 5 years from now, I need this much. If this one, I want you to understand the importance of having a better growth. Of course, when you are going to have a better growth, you have to make sure not to, do a risky thing. If you put your money in a risky investment, you might lose it all. Sometimes it makes sense to put something is, safe, and sometimes it's good to take a risk. These people who buy stocks, they are taking risks. And I was reading somewhere, as I told you, the people who took risk bought Amazon stocks in, the year 2000, 25 years ago. If they put $1,000, now they have, $1 million. Therefore, I created the first discussion for next week. Is this, about this calculation? I want you to go there, use any example that you want. You can say, okay, I have a stock. I already bought. Some of the students, in fact, did buy a stock of, SoundHound that I told them. Therefore, they can go and put the number of period to see how much they grow, those stocks grow. Or if you have your money in 401k to see. That's why I say you have to know. I will have another lecture about 401k.